Welcome to Maybe Recommend, a show where we talk about movies, music, and more. I'm joined with my co-host Sean. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to continue our Carpenter kick, I think. Well, I know because I watched these two movies. I think you only watched one, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've I've seen it. I watched Halloween a while back.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll keep it fresh in your mind. I'm sure, like, because last episode I was like, oh, they don't really show Michael Myers that much. He's through the whole thing. I
Yeah.
mean, you see glimpses of him, but like, I mean, he's prominent. So that's our first film that we're going to talk about too. So right off the bat, one of the things I looked up and found out about it was that it is the highest grossing indie film of all time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, they take into account inflation into that figure
Sure.
because otherwise it was like My Big Fat Greek Wedding or something. But
Which is
no,
scarier.
Passion of the Christ. That's what it was.
Uh,
But it cost 300,000 to make and gross 70 million.
wow.
Yeah, so I can see how that put Carpenter on the map,
Sure.
especially since he got his name on it as John Carpenter's Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, it's his.
Yeah. Um, so it's a horror film that revolves around Mike Myers, right? And
Well,
he's a psychopath who's escaped a mental institution
right.
and returns to Haddonfield, Illinois on a Halloween night, and then embarks on a murderous rampage. Would you disagree with that?
Well, so I have a question because I know that in the movie they
Mm-hmm.
they mentioned that he is Michael Myers, but they also call him the Shape. So
Well,
how does
right.
that
That's
work?
well, the shape I think is the character once he's out of the asylum, like
Okay.
where he's stalking them.
So he becomes the Shape.
That's the shape. Yeah, but I think that was more of a colloquial for the set where like I mean I know he's billed as the shape, but like in the
Right.
movie itself they call him the boogeyman.
So I guess that's where I was confused because I remember he was billed as the Shape, and
Yeah.
I can't remember if that's worked into the film because like they address him as Michael Myers. Doesn't Loomis talk about him as being Michael
Yeah, Loomis
Myers?
talks about
Okay,
it. Hmm.
so
Yeah, and
yeah, I guess that's where I was a little confused. Um,
yeah,
be-
no, they talk about Mike.
okay,
I know him on a first name basis,
yeah,
obviously.
no, that's fine. I think that's what
Yeah,
he would want.
so but speaking of Dr. Loomis, right? Like I really liked his character. He chases him since the beginning of the film. Like I didn't remember that either.
Yeah,
Like it opens up with like Loomis going there.
and
Michael Myers
he's broken out,
steals the
right?
car
Yeah.
gate, and then Michael Myers jumps from the back up onto the car and spooks the nurse out of it, gets in and drives off.
Right.
Later in the movie, right? Lewis brings attention to the fact
Yeah.
he's like, how could he escape? He doesn't know how to drive. He's like, well, someone must have taught him. like,
Yeah.
I
Like
like
who
that they
taught him?
address that.
They need to get to the
Yeah,
bottom of that.
yeah, he's been locked up since he's 6 years old. How did he, definitely drive the car? Right?
Right.
They're like, we better shoehorn that in. But
Yeah. Well, think of how awkward it would be if you've got this ultimate evil character and he jumps in the
mm,
car and then he just can't. He
yeah,
can't
he
leave.
stalls it. He gets into
Yeah.
a stick shift and he's like,
Ah,
yeah. Uh,
that's
well,
it.
okay, so that brings, like we're doing a little bit of a synopsis of the show, right? But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
later on, he's cruising by and he, Annie, right, one of the teenage leads who are in their late 20s,
You're right.
um, shouts at him and he stops the car, right?
Mhm.
Is that when he targets them? Because they have no relation to him whatsoever. You know,
I mean,
is that what
so
makes him pick them out?
it's got to be, right? Because so let me. The film opens with Michael Myers, right? As
Right. Well,
well,
yes, as a young
yeah,
child.
you don't
Yeah.
realize it, but
All
it's the
POV.
POV, and
Hmm.
the babysitter ends up getting stabbed to death, and then
No, it's his sister.
is it the sister? Okay, well,
So again, you haven't seen it in a while.
yeah, it's been
Like,
it's been a little while. So The girl gets
So,
stabbed.
well, before that, she's downstairs with her boyfriend, right? 1 minute later, they go up to have sex,
Uh,
presumably,
right,
right?
right.
It takes 1 minute for him to walk into the house, and the guy's coming down the stairs putting his shirt on. I think that's a joke. I
Uh,
think John Carpenter's he's got some solid jokes in here.
is that is that meant to be? Is it meant to
It's
be in
gotta
real
be.
time?
Yeah, because you watch him
Right.
walk up to the house, walk around the house. It's all, like we said, POV.
Mm-hmm.
And then he walks in, and by the time he's coming to the stairs, the boyfriend's coming down the stairs.
Yeah, that's a great joke.
It's a pretty funny joke.
Um,
And so this movie's way funnier than I remember it being, and way less gross. Like, it's not graphic at all. Like, even the stabbing scene of his sister
mhm.
is kind of like, it's obscured by the mask,
Okay.
and the blood that they show is
But just
like,
on the knife.
no, there's some on her chest,
Okay.
but like, it's minimal. Like, it's not like you don't see gaping wounds. It's just like somebody threw some paint over her.
Right. All I remember is him. Uh, you're in his point of view and him raising the knife and bringing it down
Mhm.
and seeing blood
Yep.
on the knife. But I don't even remember if that's accurate. And then I remember the big reveal. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen a 40-year-old movie is they pull the mask off, and that's when you realize the killer is a 6-year-old boy.
Oh no, he walks out of the front of the house, and you
Okay.
see him in his clown outfit,
Right.
and pulling the
And
mask off.
but he's holding the knife.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, he's holding
This
the knife, and then his
gigantic
parents
kitchen
show
knife.
up.
Uh,
Yeah,
so that's when he gets locked up, and then the next time you see him is when he's escaping the institution, right? So,
yeah. It's only like a glimpse of him in a gown.
right,
Do you remember that scene when they're driving up to the hospital?
yeah, that's when he's
Yeah.
telling
So
her how evil he is, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and she says the only thing I can't stand is their gibberish, how they keep ranting on,
talking
and he's
about
like
the inmates.
the inmates, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, you don't have to worry about that. He hasn't spoken a word in 15 years. He is so drunk in that scene.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Donald Pleasant's like complete drinking problem. And
So,
I think it really shows in the making of this film.
so Mike Myers is around 21.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
let's see. He was 6. He was 6 when he got, yeah, okay, 21. Yeah, you're right. Right on the math there.
That's good. It's pretty simple math. um,
well, it's still a pretty
okay.
good memory. I mean,
So
I don't know if I mentioned he was
that's
6 when he.
yeah, we were talking about it.
Mm.
I just so my I guess like when you see Michael Myers, I always think like in his 30s. So it's interesting
Yeah,
to kind of place him as like 21. But I guess
yeah,
that makes sense for the sequels and Jamie Lee Curtis. And that's another thing too,
right.
right? Is as the series went on, um, Jamie Lee Curtis becomes his sister, but she's not in the first film. She's not his sister, correct?
That is absolutely correct. And in fact, when I went to watch this uh, for this podcast, I accidentally started watching the 2018 version, and they make a point. Jamie Lee Curtis says like, I don't remember exactly who says it, to be honest, but like they make a point of saying that no, he was not my brother. I don't know how that rumor got started,
So
Or-
when
yeah.
when in you watching the remake and Jamie Lee
Mhm.
Curtis being in her like she's close to what 70 now?
Yeah, something like that.
When did you realize it was the remake, not the original?
I realized pretty quickly, like,
Okay.
so the credits were like really crisp, and it had a Blumhouse
Yeah.
logo, and I was like, Blumhouse, how long have they been? They haven't
Yeah.
been around that long.
Been around for
And
this
then
long.
it's like really crisp and clear. I'm like, huh, okay. And the pumpkin is like not. It's like doing a reverse decay effect on it.
Oh, does it open
This
with the pumpkin?
It does,
That's
yeah. It
kind of
opens
cool.
with the pumpkin.
That's kind of
Um, you know, like I said, reverse decay, and then it comes in on that. I was like, I'm watching the wrong movie. So I thought, I'll watch this for a little bit, and then it gets really, really graphic and gross. The only thing I liked about it is that Michael Myers apparently aged into a shaved head, gray haired old man with a close cropped beard. And I thought that was a pretty good look for him.
Yeah. But like in the original, we never see adult Myers' face, correct?
No, you do.
Do you?
You do. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember
So
that. Shit.
we'll get to that at the end here. Like I want to go over a few more scenes before we
Sure,
wrap
sure.
out of it. But like you do definitely see his face in one scene.
Oh,
Um
it's crazy. So I don't remember that, which is odd because I think that'd be something that would have stuck in my head.
well, I remember him getting the mask out of the hardware store. Like I remember seeing the scene where he gets it, but that's not in the film.
That's not in there? So
No,
that must be in one of the sequels.
I don't know.
I
I
bet
know
it.
that
I bet it is.
oh, you know what? I'm going to go back to the 2018 version real quick.
Okay.
There's podcasting in it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Yeah,
that giveaway.
that's all I wanted to mention is that they had to modernize it and bring in people, and they couldn't be radio hosts or anything. It had to be very of the time. So
So
podcasters are.
do you remember that the Halloween? I can't remember which one it was, but it was the one with Busta Rhymes. It's notoriously bad, but
Oh yeah,
they had a reality TV show.
yeah. That was Halloween H2O, right?
Was it H2O? I honestly, they stopped with the naming, like the numbering convention, and
Yeah.
I get them all confused. I don't know which one is which. But I mean, there's
Well,
like
I
10 of them,
think
right?
if it's Halloween H2O,
Mm-hmm.
that one has both Janet Leigh and Jamie Lee Curtis in it, like The Fog does,
Okay.
and their mother daughter, and so that's kind of cool.
Okay. That is cool.
And I guess we'll get to The Fog in a
Right.
little bit,
The
but it's
Fog is the other
LL
movie we're
Cool
talking
J
about.
was in the H2O.
I thought it was. I'm thinking of the one with Busta Rhymes because he's got
I,
a
Busta
terrible.
Rhymes, I know.
Yeah, like he actually beats up Michael Myers, and it's really bad.
I'm looking it up
'Cause I
right
don't
now.
I don't think that I don't think
It's
that
Halloween
was.
Resurrection
Oh, okay.
2002.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
a
wasn't
really
H2O.
bad film.
Well, I haven't. I fell off a little bit with like slasher flicks.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's not
mean,
my favorite genre. You know,
that's probably my least favorite part of like Halloween's legacy is
mhm,
so he creates this movie and does really well, right?
yeah.
And so
Well, he also creates that genre.
right. So in competition, a few years later, they make Friday the 13th,
Yeah,
which the first one has kind of the gimmicky twist, right?
yeah,
Where it's the mother, but as it
right.
goes on, like the one thing they really cemented was the idea of this otherworldly, nonverbal antagonist that I think is just really boring. Um,
I don't. That's not really my problem with it. It's just I don't mind an out of the gate slasher flick.
okay.
Right. Usually they're kind of interesting or like they're kind of fun. They can be fun. It's when you get to the twos and the threes and you start racking up those numbers that you're like, I don't get going back to that well.
Well,
They're not even wanting a second bite at the apple. They're eating the whole thing and taking a new apple.
well, sure. I just one thing that the genre's kind of known for is this like a complete lack of personality in the killer. That's one of the reasons I really
Mhm.
like Freddy Krueger, right? Is because he's
Yeah.
like he's all personality, and it can get a little hammy.
He's not in the originals though. Like in the very first ones.
He is.
No.
Yeah, he's got
No, like he's
He
not
doesn't
not
make all the jokes, but he's
yeah,
got a
he's not
personality.
quickly and
Yeah,
okay, he does. You know what? You're right. I'm backing off on that one. He has more personality than Freddy or Michael Myers,
right.
or than
Jason.
Jason or Michael Myers.
Yeah, no, totally. Like that's part of he antagonizes people, like even verbally, like, and he'll do things to himself, like he mutilates
Mm,
himself. And I mean, there's some really good opportunity for effects in there, but
it's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I like that in Halloween, like one of the things Carpenter does really well is like you sent me a picture when you realized that Myers was seen throughout the film, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Look, here he's doing laundry," and you sent me that picture of him,
Yeah.
like, yeah, between the hanging laundry, but
Yeah.
those images are chilling, like, and
Oh yeah, it's startling, and
r-
he's there and he's gone.
right,
It is. It's nice.
right, he uses that to great effect, and the problem
Mhm.
is, it's like when that gets overused, it loses any
Yeah,
power.
sure.
And so I think that the first film is really effective, and it's just as it goes on, it just gets tired, you know. And
Yeah, and they try to like when they do a reboot of the film, I think it also loses something in it too.
sure,
Like, and I'll talk about that actually
yeah, yeah,
with the next film because like I watched the remake of it as well with the fog.
yeah. I'd like to
Um,
hear your take on that.
yeah, it's coming. Trust me.
Yeah,
I just wanted to get into a few
yeah,
things
yeah. Sorry, I didn't
with
mean to
no
derail you.
no no that's fine. With Halloween though, um, there are the main cast of, of babysitters essentially.
Okay,
That they're walking along, they insult Michael, he stops. Annie is like my favorite character, and she's like
she's one
the
of the babysitters.
catalyst. Yeah, she's the babysitter, really. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis, Lori is a babysitter,
She
but like she's the one that he goes after.
isn't. She's just like a neighbor girl, right?
No, she's babysitting the neighbor girl,
Okay, okay.
Lindsay, and so they're across the street from each other. They talk about how that'd be kind of cool. You could come over and see me, and then like later on they're driving around smoking pot and you see their dad in the broken hardware store. Like that, to me, that the dialogue in that seemed the most believable. Like when they're driving off and Jamie Lee Curtis is like, he knew, I think he could smell it, and she's like, he didn't know.
Mhm.
Like it felt
Oh,
very
because they had
teenagerish.
smoked pot.
Yeah, yeah, they were literally right before they pulled up to talk to or Annie's dad. But I wanted more of her in the film. Like I think she did such a good job.
Yeah. Do you think she was better than Jamie Lee Curtis?
Oh, not at all. I think Jamie Lee Curtis brought something to the film that, like, I don't know, she's very sweet and believable, and when she's making popcorn with the kids, and then she's laying out the night, and he's like, "Can we do this?" And she's like, "No, we'll make jack o' lanterns." And he's like, "Can I do this?" And then she's like, "After the jack o' lanterns, we'll make popcorn," that kind of thing.
Right.
And then so like it felt like their interaction not only with the children but each other feels very natural. I just liked the character of Annie.
Okay.
And the character I didn't like in it was Bob, like the girl who says totally a lot, her boyfriend. He makes a
Okay.
really creepy comment about taking her clothes off and then taking off Lindsay's, who is a child in
Oh,
the film. Yeah.
that
I don't
probably
know
didn't age
why
well.
that's in there. Super gross. But yeah, like I was like, yeah, I'm okay with Mike killing him. Yeah. I really like
I think that's
do you hmm,
I think that's kind of the trick, right? Is you want to make likable characters, but I think
yeah.
there should be some characters that you don't mind seeing, get taken out.
Yeah, that's true. Like Donald Pleasance in the film is pretty funny in points too. Like there do you remember the scene where Lonnie is walking up to the Michael Myers house and
Hmm.
his friends are daring him to go up there, and then from behind the bushes uh Donald Loomis says, "Get your ass away from there." And scares the
I
kid, and then
I don't
literally
remember that.
seconds after, the cop comes up and scares Loomis.
That's awesome.
Going through it, I had a really good time. I thought there was some serious funny jokes in there. The Michael Myers dressing up in a sheet and putting on Bob's glasses.
Oh yeah, I do
Yeah.
remember that.
What was who was that for? That was just for him to entertain himself.
Yeah. Well, he didn't use that to scare. Isn't that towards the end?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
yeah. He
in the
walks
last
into
house.
yeah, no, it's in the first house. He's still
Okay.
so he takes Annie out on the phone or not on the phone, he in the car, right?
Uh-huh.
And then he goes inside the house and positions her upstairs, right? And the kid sees him across the street and he's like, "Ah, the boogeyman." And then they look out there, there's nobody out there, right?
Right.
And um then Totally Girl and Bob show up
Totally girl.
to go fool around
Okay.
in the house, and like, oh, they're not home, so we'll wait for her to get back or whatever. And he kills Bob downstairs,
Okay.
and then he comes upstairs wearing a sheet and his glasses, like like
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
just to mess with her for a second before he gets in there to choke her to death on the phone.
Right.
Which is a great setup. So earlier in the film,
Uh-huh.
Annie calls Lori and is making some chewing sounds, which she takes as an obscene call, right? And
Okay.
calls her back. And then when I guess I wish I could remember the character's name, but we'll just call her Totally Girl. She gets a phone call out to Lori as well, rather than the police for some reason, while she's getting choked to death. And she takes it as another like attempt at a joke of an obscene phone call. Yeah, well, that was pretty cool. So, do you remember the ending? This is the part with the mask. You don't remember
So,
that.
so I remember, like, when I remember it, you can tell me if I'm off. So they
Sure.
end up shooting him, and he falls
Mhm.
out a window, right? But they
Yes.
shoot him like 6 times. And
Right.
then is that when he loses the mask? And then I know he's on the ground and he disappears.
So I think okay. Now I'm getting a little confused in my head. So
Oh,
Lori's in the closet and she
hmm,
gets him in the eye with a coat hanger,
okay.
and then he
Yeah,
lays down and
coat
pretends
hanger.
like he's dead for the second time in the film. First time she stabs him in the neck with a knitting needle, and then the second time with a coat hanger. And he gets up and he's got her, and Loomis I think shoots him once, and he pulls his mask up and you see his full face. And then he pulls it back down. Loomis shoots him like 5 more times. He falls out the window. Then they look out the window. He's gone. Pans out to the street. Ambiguous ending.
Okay.
So he's already setting up that that's his thing, I guess.
Right. And that's where they decided to like make the sequel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if it was set up for a sequel or more of a, ooh, the boogeyman's out there kind of,
My
thing.
understanding is, and I could be wrong, but
Hmm.
my understanding was the Carpenter didn't want to do a sequel.
I think that's
Um,
right.
and they wanted to kind of franchise it out, like
Did
because
he have anything to do with
they
the
can never
second
just
one?
make. Um,
Actually, you know what I
I
remember is they
I
wanted to do
believe he
an
did.
anthology. Sorry,
Right.
I'm talking
That's
over.
what 3 is.
Yeah.
So so my under, excuse me, my understanding is that 2 they brought an end to Michael Myers. And that
Hmm.
might have been Carpenter saying like we have to end it like definitively, but then they
Yeah.
wanted to continue on, and so the idea was to make Halloween 3 an anthology, and they were going to keep making those. But Halloween 3 didn't do well, which is too bad because I think it is a good movie. It's really
Yeah.
weird, but it's kind of the black
3 is
sheep.
really weird, but you know that I'm not a fan of child death, so
Yeah, yeah. You might want to explain
that
that
movie's
to
rife with it.
right to anyone listening is you kind of you won't watch anything with children dying, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is just it's cheap for one. I don't care for that as a scare. I the child endangerment in this movie, I'm not going to say it's fine, but like everybody survives. It's great, right?
Right.
They're scarred for life, obviously, but it's fine.
But
But
you do
when you're killing kids in the movie, I just think it's just gross.
right, and you draw that line. It's like teenagers is different, right? Or is it
Well, teenagers that I know are played by like 26-year-olds, like,
right? Yeah, yeah,
it's a whole different game. Like the
right.
80s was perfect for teenage horror movies because they didn't care if the person looked 30. They're
Right.
like, yeah, he's 15. You're like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he shaves a
And
lot.
that was fine. But when they look like children, I'm like, it's
Yeah. Like kid
I don't
kids.
like what they're doing to the actor,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, that's
especially
fair.
if they put him in something very gross,
Yeah. No,
like that's a
that's
real
totally fair.
person doing a thing. So, but
But
go on.
oh, that just might be a reason why we don't look into certain movies.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is a deal breaker for me. So if you're like, well, if you like this, why didn't you do this? We're not going to do that.
Right.
For instance, Possession. I don't think I'll watch that again or all the way through. That
Is that
there's
that's the one I told you about?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that
Yep.
involve a kid?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
The
I'm sorry.
couple divorcing has a child. And wow, that's a
Uh
rough movie, man.
you
That
see
is a rough movie.
yeah, no. Yeah, it's a rough I did say that.
You
But
did
I didn't
warn me that.
remember.
Yeah. Well,
Um
you know what's not a
so I
rough movie though?
apologize. What's that?
That's okay.
The Fog?
The Fog. Yeah,
The
that's
Fog. That
okay.
was a rough movie. I'm gonna say this.
You're gonna.
Yeah. I
Uh,
so um I I've seen a lot of Carpenter, but a lot of it is like I saw it late teenager, which I'm getting up there. Um
mhm.
so I don't there's a couple that I remember pretty well and I'll revisit like Halloween. Um The Thing is a big one.
Yeah.
Um The Fog I didn't remember, but looking
Mm,
at the timeline because I believe The Fog was 1980, right?
yep.
So it's
That's right.
hot off the tails of Halloween
Mm,
and right it's in between Halloween and The Thing. So knowing
right.
that, and I think both of those are two of kind of the great horror films. The Thing I actually think is a better it's the best of between that and Halloween. I think that
We already
the
went
Thing
down
is
that love
just
fest.
yeah, is just kind of perfect film. So, but it
Yeah.
kind of set my expectations because I'm like, oh wow, like this is so he's learned a lot in Halloween, and Halloween he's got um it's it's really distinct what he's doing, right? So he made
Yeah.
a slasher film. There's a lot of really cool imagery. Michael Myers is kind of used to kind of stalk people. Like you'll see him like a strong silhouettes, right? Where you see him and then he's
Yeah.
not there. And then you've
Right.
got the kind of insane practical effects, body horror of the Thing. So I'm like,
Right.
this is going to be, and I mean, the premise is for people who don't know, um, it involves pirate zombies surrounded in fog, right? So I'm like, this is
Yeah.
going to be
There's a
awesome.
little more to it. You know.
Very little more. Like,
Well,
don't build it
okay.
up.
So
Okay.
so I'm
So
not gonna
yeah, I
build
want
it
to
up.
hear you. I
I'm
want
just
to
gonna
hear your
say,
take. Okay. Let me
okay.
hear your take.
All right. So like I don't know where Antonio Bay is supposed to be set, to be honest with you. I'm going to assume it's California with a name like that, but I didn't know they were known for their lighthouses. So,
Okay. Yeah.
um,
No, that's news to me.
yeah. But there is a curse on the town,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And it's the eve of the town's centennial celebration.
Yes.
And that's when the fog rolls in.
Right. Okay, but that doesn't really make it any better.
Well, there's more of a plot than just like zombie pirate. Well, okay, maybe there isn't. I'm
There
not
really
defending this movie.
so
I'm
so
not.
so it's fine if people like it, right? There are some things that
Mhm.
I think were done really well. Like there's imagery of the fog rolling in to the coast, right? And
hmm
there's some
Oh, and there's
real
a solid joke in the beginning when like it's a beat of three. She says there's a fog bank going to roll in, and the guy's drinking and he's looking out there and he's like, there ain't no fog.
mhm.
Looks out there again. He's like, no fog. He's like, hey, there's
Hey,
fog.
hey, there's that fog that she talked about. So,
I thought that was pretty good.
and she, to clarify, she is a radio broadcaster in a
Mm-hmm.
lighthouse, which is
Yeah.
a really specific setup,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And she's using kind of a sexy radio voice, which I also thought was kind of weird.
What I loved is she plays jazz for this coastal fishing village. They
Right,
love
right. These
jazz.
guys are like water hicks. They're water hicks that love jazz. These
They
guys are
just
like
love smooth jazz.
good,
She's like,
good old.
yeah,
Yeah, they're like blue collar. They're fishermen,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And she's coming on the radio like,
So
for all
that,
my friends out there
so
at
that's
sea.
funny. Actually,
Yeah,
right. No, it's she's using this sexy
yeah,
radio voice, and that's her
absolutely.
like persona out of a lighthouse. Which I think the more we talk about it, like I think had I watched this with you, it would have
hmm
been a lot more fun, right? So
I had
talking
a very
about
good
it
time
now
watching
with
it.
you, right? But you're
Yeah.
surrounded by family. I'm just me, right? just just I got off work. I work graveyard, right? So I come
Yeah.
home and I'm like, okay. And my whole plan was I'm gonna sit down with this. I'm gonna I'm gonna take notes because I was expecting something, I don't know, something made in between Halloween and the thing. And I think what I got was like it's sandwiched in between two of I think the greatest horror movies ever
hmm
made. Same director, right? So I was excited. And I feel like what I got was that that feeling that the girl in Halloween must have had when her boyfriend, a minute later he's putting on his shirt. It was disappointing, right? I was
Okay.
like,
I'm with you.
I yeah, I was sitting there and I'm fully prepared, like I'm gonna take notes. And as the movie went on, I was like, this isn't this is barely holding my attention, right?
Okay.
And
I
so
did take
I made
notes and I do have a couple things I wanted to point out.
okay. I so real
Okay.
quick, I was just gonna say
hmm
the standouts. So the idea is so there's a curse on the town, correct?
Yeah. hmm
And someone has stolen gold or stole gold from
Yes.
these pirates. It's the 100-year anniversary, and this fog
hmm
rolls in, and so just to kind of give a basic idea, wherever the fog goes, right, it surrounds your house, then you are surrounded by these leper pirates, right,
But they're
and they
polite.
just
They knock
they
on your
just kind
door.
of stab. Yeah, they do. Okay, they do knock
Well,
on the door, but
only
then they
after you open
immediately
the door. No,
stab you.
they're polite to a point. They won't come in
Yes.
until you open the door.
Okay. To be fair,
Yeah.
if I got a knock at
Violently.
the door and I open it and immediately I was stabbed in the face, I wouldn't be thinking, "Oh, that was
You
polite."
would not.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
Eh,
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
But the knocking is rude too, I guess. They're not knocking so much as pounding on the
No,
door.
they're pounding
But
like the police.
yeah. Like
It's like a
yeah, they're giving
SWAT
a
team
let
knock.
me in knock. Yeah.
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 So,
But
I
go
wanted
on.
to say what I did like.
Mm,
So that idea, the idea of a fog rolling in. So fog is cool.
yeah.
I'm not gonna pretend it isn't. I love it. Um, and that idea, like it even like in video games, they've used it to good effect, like with Silent Hill, right, where it's almost a character in and of
Oh yeah.
itself, right? So that's
Fantastic
really
game.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, there are shots where you see the fog rolling in that look they're
hmm
clearly of their time, right? The effects, but they're still cool. Like it still looks really cool. And
It
then
looks
there
good,
are,
yeah.
yeah, and then there are effects where they use actual like non-animated fog. Like they pumped in a bunch of fog, and they do some camera
Yeah.
tricks that
Hmm.
look really great. The
I think
leper makeup,
again for such a cheap movie, it looks good. Yeah, okay. You don't see it that often because they're really cutting away from it. You see arms. You see arms a
there
lot.
are a lot of arms. It's mostly arms.
Yeah.
So if they
Like
had
there's just
named,
one scene when Adrian Barbeau is on top of the lighthouse
yes,
and you're like, "Oh, oh, that's bad." And
well,
and I
you got to
think
give a
they
little context.
used
They
real
chase her
millworms
up.
on that. So there's something
Yeah.
there.
So
Mhm.
if they had named this movie
Yeah.
Arms exclamation point, it would have made as much sense
In the
as
fog?
the fog. Yeah, Arms in the fog.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
it's visually, it is. I think it is pretty, but it just, I was, I stopped immediately taking notes because I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, it's real basic, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but
It's
I just found it to be
below basic.
incredible.
I'll ask you one
Right.
question right now. I said, "What did the protagonist do for a living?"
Um,
I have no
uh,
idea. He drove
eh,
around and looked for boats.
I don't remember. Like, so,
It, he's
but was he
introduced,
the
right?
protagonist? I'm not even clear on
He's
who
a
the protagonist
guy.
was.
I don't know. Maybe Stevie
Did
Wayne,
anyone in
Adrian
that
Barbeau's
movie have
character,
an arc?
is the.
Did anyone have an arc?
Did they have an arc? One thing, like things do start to escalate quickly, and everybody just accepts it. It's like a game of improv where they're like yes anding the premise. They're
Right.
just like, yes, the fog is killing people, and there's zombies, and we have to stop it. I
Yeah.
don't know.
So
There's
the motivations
yeah,
weren't clear, unless. So I
right.
was so bored that I just missed the motivation, right?
No,
So it just
no, you
becomes this:
didn't.
we need to
Each character
survive,
got a piece of information.
right?
Yeah. But
Yeah,
like, so they knew about this book that fell out of a wall for some reason, and the priest reads it,
right,
and it has the backstory that you need
right.
to
So the
understand the movie.
in
But
the right in the beginning of the film, there's a priest sitting at a table, and I believe that's when his little
mhm.
like protege, I don't know, mini priest, I don't know what it was. He comes in and says, "Hey, Father, like, can I get paid?" And he goes, "Why don't you come in tomorrow at
Yeah,
6 instead of 4?" And the guy just goes, "Okay." And he leaves, and the priest pours himself a drink, and he gets up, and
mhm.
then there's a moment where a stone falls out of the wall where he was sitting, right? So I thought,
No,
oh,
it doesn't
okay,
fall; it explodes out of the wall.
okay, yeah. And it
Yeah.
lands where basically it would have hit him in the head, right? And then he looks up and there's a
Hmm.
book, and
Right.
that's it. Like it's
Yeah.
really lame, right? And so I
It's a
feel like,
lazy plot device.
oh, 100%. And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, there's treasure,
Hmm.
and they all had clues.
Yep.
Different people had
That's what
clues,
is.
right?
Hmm. And they had to come together to solve the clues to find the gold.
Yeah, like I wasn't.
I
Yeah, they had to find the gold in
I don't
order.
know. I don't know. This movie was very confusing.
So which is odd because it was so simple. Like it managed to be both like
Well, here I'm going
extremely
to just cut to
simple.
the end.
Okay.
So they find the gold. The gold is in the cross on the wall. And then they have this weirdly protracted scene where the priest and the zombie leader is holding on to it. You don't know what's going on there. Then
Well,
he
no,
pulls the priest
he
off, and
says
then the
what's going
zombies all
on.
disappear.
So he says what's
Oh, he
going on.
does?
Yeah, the priest says that.
What was going on?
So it comes out that the priest is the descendant of so they read in the book that the gold was stolen
Mhm.
from these leper. They're pirates. I'm like, they're pirates. You look at them, they're pirates. There's a pirate ship. They've got flags,
Okay,
cutlasses, hooks.
sure.
So
It,
this guy 100 years ago stole their
I'm
gold.
not going to negate it.
Yeah, this is
Mhm.
just for the listener. Like anyone, if the the person who listens to this, watch the movie and get
Don't
back to
watch the
me.
movie.
No, I think I I need to know if they think it's a pirate or just a plane leopard. It's a pirate. Spoiler alert.
If you're
So
following the story, it's lepers, but if you're watching the movie, it's pirates.
right. So
There's a cognitive dissonance going on
okay,
in the
so
movie.
for some reason that makes even less sense. Okay, they're lepers, right? So 100 years
Hmm.
ago, this guy stole the leper's gold. You know, famous leper's gold, right? Stole
Hmm.
gold from the lepers, and the
Hmm.
priest realizes that he's the descendant of that person. So when he confronts the head leper, who's dressed like a pirate, who's
Hmm.
after his gold,
Yep.
uh,
Hmm.
he tells the the leper pirate, he said, "I'm the descendant of this guy who stole your gold." And so he basically says, "This is on me." Then he holds this giant gold cross, and the leper pirate grabs onto the cross, and he's got some cool glowing eyes, the leper. And
You
then
like that part?
I kind of did. At that point, it was just like, oh, that's something. I was like, okay. And so they're both hanging on to this cross, this gold cross that starts glowing, and it looks like
Hmm.
it's electrocuting both of them. Or actually, it looks like they're going to catch on fire, right? But
Yeah.
they're both men are glowing. Then
I think
uh,
they're smoking too, aren't they?
yeah, there's a little bit of that. It looked like they were going to combust.
Yeah.
Then one of the other survivors grabs onto the priest and pulls him off of the cross, and he's
Yeah.
fine, which is really, I thought for sure the dude's cooked. And
Hmm.
then the leper, not a pirate, disappears,
Yeah.
right?
And every leper pirate
Right. They
disappears.
all disappear.
Everybody's safe now.
The fog
And then,
rolls out.
yep.
Everyone's like, "Oh, the fog is gone." No
Yep.
one even says that was weird.
And then the weirdest thing happens.
Yes.
The priest mutters to himself about how he wish he died for some reason.
Oh, I was gonna say what's what it makes even less sense. So the broadcaster lady gets on with her sexy
Oh.
voice because throughout the
Mm,
film she was separated from her child, and so she was
right.
using the broadcast to communicate to the rest of the town, like, "Someone please save my kid. He's surrounded by the fog." And she's
Yeah, we
trying
skipped
to get
over that.
messages to him that she loves him, that she hasn't abandoned him. So she
Yeah.
gets back on the horn and says, like,
Uh-huh.
the fog is leaving, but keep an eye out for the fog because the fog could be back. And I don't know where you get that from, right? Just given the information we've got, they solved the problem and the
Hmm.
fog goes away.
But she doesn't know that.
She doesn't, but that's like they're blindly
We
accepting
know it through
everything.
dramatic irony. She doesn't know.
But everyone has blindly accepted everything until this point. So
It's true.
if you give me a solution to the fog problem, then I'm like, what would bring the fog back? We solved the problem, right?
Yeah.
Fog leaves,
Hmm. Everybody's safe.
and but she's like, watch out for the fog. And then
Hmm. Was she
the
right?
the priest, is it the priest? I think it's the priest.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's the priest who looks like Edgar Allan Poe.
he's back in his little abbey church, and behind him the fog starts rolling out from under a door,
Hmm.
and then the zombie's back.
For no reason.
uh, i I was so confused.
It's very confusing because yeah, he's muttering to himself, like I said, and he's like, "I wish they'd taken me because I'm the ancestor. It doesn't make sense." And then they're like, "Oh yeah, we left, but we totally forgot to kill you, so we're back to do that." End scene.
Yeah, the biggest problem with it is it wasn't scary, right?
No, it wasn't even.
I felt
It was a
nothing,
slow scare.
but it
Because
wasn't
he,
even a slow scare. It just was
you're
slow.
right. It was. He's like, "I'm gonna die," and yeah.
And I just like, I think I was expecting so much because this is
Mhm.
right in between, like, pound for pound. I think The Thing is one of the scariest movies ever made. Like that's how it affects me, right? Um, the
So,
Halloween. Mhm.
mhm.
I don't think Halloween's that scary, but the premise I can see the premise is scary,
I
right?
like it. I liked Halloween. I watching it now as an adult. I won't say mature adult, but I will say adult. Um, and I, I could see like I'm like, well, this movie's not scary. This movie is interesting and it's kind of suspenseful and a little fun. This one was neither really fun
No,
nor interesting.
right. It had a really fun premise, like pirate zombies. You can call them lepers;
Mm-hmm.
they're pirates. That's fun.
Mm-hmm. You've made
Like,
that point.
right. I also like the idea that, um, and I think they did this, but so the fog would go under, and I could be wrong, but the fog would go like, let's say, under a door, and then they would just be
Yeah.
wherever that fog was. Didn't they just kind of
Right.
materialize?
I think that that's intentional.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea. There's a bunch of really cool ideas. There's some really cool visuals with the fog, and it just falls flat.
So I don't disagree, and I think that's why they did the remake. And the
Okay.
remake I
Yeah.
couldn't get through.
Oh, please.
I started watching. I bought it because it was like
Oh, you bought it.
5 to rent and 6 to own,
You
and so
own
I
it.
was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'll own it.
You
And
lost
so
a
I started
dollar.
watching it. Yeah, I did. I lost more than $1. I lost about half an hour of my time. Um,
Oh,
so Superman from Smallville was in it,
ew.
and
Okay.
well, he's a pretty attractive guy, pretty cut, you
Mm,
know. Uh,
nice.
they add new elements into it. His the
Oh, like what?
hitchhiker is actually his girlfriend. Well, he's a philanderer boat captain who has a friend on the ship that uh, breaks open the sack that contains pirate treasure or leper treasure,
Oh,
actually.
so they go into that.
Yeah. And so Elizabeth the
Okay.
hitchhiker, who was Jamie Lee Curtis, is actually his girlfriend.
Okay.
And then it just was so boring and stupid. I turned it off, so I can't go too far into it. But it took those interesting elements and try to make another movie out of it, and I just lost interest. I might even just
Now I'm
cut
kind
this
of
out of it
curious
because
as to
there's no
what they
point.
did with the ending. Like, I'm kind of curious. Like,
For you, I
boy,
will
it was
watch
that
this
bad where you're
movie
just like, I'm not
and
finishing it.
oh yeah, no, I didn't finish it. I made it. I, I think maybe 30 minutes into it, and
So,
it was like longer than
had
needed to be.
if we weren't going to get on a podcast and talk about, I wouldn't have finished the original one.
Yeah.
It to me it just doesn't. So it's a strong recommend from me.
Hmm.
Great film.
So I think we need to change the premise of this show because obviously our first outing with John Carpenter was love the first movie, tepid on the second movie. Love the first movie on this one, reject the second movie. Um, we highly recommend Halloween as far as a good film goes, and The Fog as far as a great film goes.
Yes, yes. I think
Nice
if
try, man.
when people think about John Carpenter as
Mhm.
time goes on, they will forget Halloween and The Thing, but they'll remember the film.
Okay. Goodbye.